I'm a student at Purdue University, and my name is Newhouse. It can be tough. It is, especially with COVID now, everything is online, and so it can be very stressful at times trying to reorganize everything. But otherwise, it can be fun when you really take a class that you really enjoy. I take care of myself. My family, my parents help my sister and I a lot since we're both in university, financially wise. So I have two jobs technically. I am a TA for a genetics lab and I'm a TA for Calc 2. So I get paid through both of those. But that's more for my future education that I'll have to pay for myself, but my parents are helping me right now with undergrad. No. Yes. For me, it's weird because I know they have set aside money for my education. It's for education only, but I have no idea how much money that is, and they have said that I will have to pay once that is completed, or depleted rather, but I don't know when that is. So that's why I have two jobs, trying to get money so that when it is empty, I will have to pay for myself. And so since I want to go to med school, that is very, very expensive here in the US. It's about like $80,000 to $150,000 a year, which is a lot of money. So I know that they don't have that much money to pay for me, so I'll probably end up taking loans in the future. I think in the way that how much I can lean on my parents financially, yes. Because I know a lot of my friends and I know a lot of people, it's hard to pay for undergrad even. So I think in that way I am. Okay, so one of my roommates actually, her parents claim her as a dependent, but they don't give her any money whatsoever when it comes to education, and so she's never actually been able to fully pay for her education. So she constantly is getting jobs. She's constantly on a spreadsheet making sure that she has enough money to pay for rent, has enough money to pay for school, and her car has been breaking down almost every single week, so she has to set aside money for that. So just to hear her struggle, it's really hard because, I mean, I've never been in a position where I have to constantly think about money in that way. And I know she has had arguments with her parents about trying to make herself an independent so that she can get special loans and her own tax benefits and whatnot. But I've never had to deal with that, so it kind of brings me to the real world a little bit and what I will have to experience in the future. I would say so. I think having friends like that, it's made me realize how much I need to save up, and so it's really pushed me to find jobs and internships that pay. I don't know for how long. I don't have that much saved because when I was younger I wasn't allowed to work actually. So I don't have too much saved. I think I would be able to survive, continue paying my rent as is until my lease expires, but I would probably immediately start getting loans to help pay, and I don't think I would be able to afford medical school if they cut me off now. Well, one of my biggest concerns is finance in the future. I don't quite like that my parents pay for everything and that I don't really know how much there is saved to my name. So that's a huge thing in my future that I have to think about, especially when it comes to med school, when I have to pay 80 grand a year to go there. That's a lot of money. Then there's also a whole bunch of stuff going on in the world right now that I don't even know if I really want to practice medicine in the US because the medical system here is not something I enjoy. It's not what I think medicine should be about. So I'm thinking about even going to Europe where they have universal healthcare, and that's something more that I like in medicine rather than, you know, insurance companies raking everything, and it's all about money here. So when it comes to medicine and whatnot, there's a lot that could be done. We could make it more about the person and treating a person, so make it universal for everyone, because I believe that if you're sick, you should be treated. You shouldn't have to pay a crazy amount of money in order to, you know, get cough drops or something like that. It's crazy how expensive things are. I think what people could do now is just set a blank statement of how much things should cost, because depending on the hospital you go in, it's actually like if you get the same surgery at 3 different hospitals, you'll get 3 different prices, because it's all based on insurance companies, how much they say that they'll pay, how much they say they won't pay, and then also the hospital themselves. So I think if at least we could get that settled, to have like just one blank statement of how much things should cost, that'll help a little bit. But then also, if insurance companies would just be more lenient and would pay for more, like people with diabetes, they have to pay hundreds of dollars to get their insulin shots, which isn't right. Their insulin shots is how they survive. So the fact that they have to pay hundreds of dollars just to get something that doesn't even cost that much to actually make, to me, is insane. So I think it should be cheaper. I think it's crazy. So just to give you a rundown of how you apply in the US. So you have to take the MCAT, which is a couple $100s, and it's the medical requirement test that you need. It's the medical test that you have to take. It's basically a standardized test. So you take the MCAT, that's a couple $100 down the drain. Then you have primary applications. So this is your initial, like, hey, I'm interested in going to this university, and you have to pay $50 to $100 per application. Now, statistically wise, you're supposed to apply to 20 to 30 on average schools to get accepted into one. So those are the odds that you play with. So you're going to be applying to a lot of schools. So that's a lot of money for your primary application. Then you have your secondary application. So it's if they say they like you, or in my opinion, I think it's all money driven. They send you a whole nother application with more essays to write, and that costs about $100 average per application that you submit. So that's also, times that by 20, that's a lot of money down the drain. And then you have interviews if they like both of your applications, and you have to pay for travel, your stay, and all that. Now with COVID, that doesn't really exist. A lot of the interviews now are online, so you don't have to worry about that financially anymore. But beforehand, you would have to pay for any plane ticket, any hotel, Uber, anything like that. And then on top of that, once you get in, the cost of education is like $80,000 a year to $100,000 a year. And scholarships in medical school don't really exist unless you really need financial aid. Then I think there is some that you can get, but otherwise it doesn't exist really. I think if you're going into medicine, you already know that huge financial obligation that you'll have to pay later. So I wouldn't say I feel privileged that I can consider medicine as a profession. I more think of it as like I know what's ahead of me, and I just hope that my profession will make it worth that financial burden in the future. I don't know. I think maybe we're just too focused on money in this country. Everything's all about money and how much money you can get. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to fix it apart from just lowering it all. I mean, for example, like in Europe, it's a lot cheaper for me to go to med school in Europe than it is here. It is about $18,000 a year for an international student to go to medical school there. That's cheaper than a lot of in-state tuition for undergrad. Like, it's crazy how much cheaper it is there, and they have a great educational system there. And they go straight from high school to medical school as well. So it is slightly different in the ways that they do their programs and stuff. Like undergraduate degrees don't really exist there, because if you know what you want to do, then you go. I haven't applied to Europe yet. I am thinking about it, but I plan to stay here because I think I want to live here in the long run. Most of my family's in the US, so familial wise, it'd be nice to stay here. I also know that if I did go to the go to the UK or in Europe and try to change my degree to be able to practice in the US, that's a whole nother hassle in itself. Like having to convert your license to other countries can be kind of difficult, and I feel like there's a lot more opportunities in the US than there are in Europe, especially when it comes to medicine. I know there's a huge shortage in doctors in the US now. So I think in the future there'd be a lot more opportunities for me here than there would be in Europe. I'm all for affordable healthcare and affordable education for everyone. So if the government could pay for schooling or pay for, like, I guess I can't really pay for insurance, but somehow just lower the cost of everything, I think we would be better as a society, because then more people could get educated, more people could get healthcare, and I feel like we wouldn't all hate medicine as much as some people do, or hate the fact that everything is money driven. It'd kind of decrease that level of hate financially, if that makes sense. I think there's a mix of things that are in play. One, the cost of it is crazy expensive, and then two, also a lot of the baby boomers are retiring now. So I think that was the majority of the people were just because they were baby boomers. But I do know that a lot of people who were pre-med with me ended up changing to wanting to be like a PA or a nurse, because it is a lot cheaper than going all the way into medicine and getting an MD or a DO. So I have learned to be more introverted in a sense. I've learned to be more of a homebody than I was before. I have all my classes online, which makes it harder, I think, to study and to retain all information. So for me, schooling has been struggle motivationally wise as well. And also with all this, you hear about all the financial burdens that people have taken on because of COVID, people losing their jobs or people not being able to find a job, which makes me a little weary for if I don't get into medicine, if I would be able to get a job or an internship out there, just so I could start living life. But with COVID, that's a lot harder, especially in the medical field, because, you know, COVID is very prevalent in hospitals and clinics and all that. I would say a 7, because it's not the end of the world if I don't get a job, because if I don't get into medical school, I am planning on reapplying, so then there's the hope that I'll get into medical school the following year. But at the same time, if I don't get a job or an internship, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for a year. I'm not sure what I could do to try and get a job, because I'm also someone who does not really want to go to grad school. If anything, I'd maybe want to get my MBA, but a lot of MBA programs you need to have years of experience beforehand. So I'm a little worried, but I'm hoping that my medical track will kind of help me with that, and so I can just straight go into medical school and not have to quite worry about acquiring a job until later. I would probably invest like half of it, whether that's for retirement or just in the stock market of some sort, trying to increase that amount. And then the other $5,000, maybe spend it on like food, try and live on my own, pay for rent and food and all that. Maybe even donate some to people in need. Yeah, I'd say so. I think happiness more has to do with the person, not really institutions or necessarily other people. I don't think you can make someone happy. I think they have to make themselves happy. It's kind of like you're asking what is happiness to a person, because I feel like it can be different in all sort of senses. Like, I don't know. What would they do? What do you think they would do? I'm happy with myself. Um, I think even in the future, if I go to medical school and have a lot of debt, I think I still will be happy. I think happiness is more of a mindset than it is where you are in life, in my opinion. And I think that someone could reach happiness with help of maybe like the federal government or having that stability in life financially or not. I think it helps someone be more happy because they don't have to worry that much or as much as someone who might have all that financial burden just on themselves. But I do think it's a mindset. I think that people who are maybe less fortunate or even more fortunate can be happy, and vice versa. You can be a very fortunate person and not be happy with your life. But I feel like it's more of a mindset and not necessarily where you are in life. I try to be a positive person. I am constantly smiling. I'm a happy person in general. But, there's always those worries in the background that, I don't talk about or people don't see that's going on in life. But I think truly happy with no care in the world, elementary school. Well, it depends. If I get into med school, I see myself drowning in schoolwork again. Maybe debating whether I chose the right profession or not. I know a lot of first years struggle their first year because it's so different and it's very hard. But hopefully I would also have a positive mindset because I enjoy what I'm learning and I enjoy where I'm at. That being said, if I don't get into med school, I think it'll be a lot stressful of a mindset that I would have because I'm planning to retake the MCAT, having to apply again, which is a lot more money that I have to spend, and then hopefully getting in and the worries of getting into a school again. So I feel all that stress that I did have when I already went through this over the summer might come back again. No, I didn't realize how many people were living paycheck to paycheck. That's a very high number. I think something that could happen is increasing the minimum wage because in my head, minimum wage means that if you have that, you should be able to live off of it fine. But that is not the case, and I think it needs to be increased all over the US. And also there should be more opportunities for people to strive for higher paying jobs. I feel like there's not that much out there, especially if you don't have all the educational backgrounds that other people have, which a lot of people, if they are struggling financially, can't get higher education just because of how expensive it is. So being able to give them the opportunity to have higher education would be hugely beneficial to that and probably also help decrease that percentage. It could also help to teach people how to save their money, like invest in their money, how to budget, because I know some people aren't the best with their money and that might be why they're living paycheck to paycheck. Not saying all of them are, but having that knowledge beforehand could help someone better prepare for their future.